What if silence wasn't peaceful, but the fastest way to lose your mind? Number 5. Your internal clock has no idea what's happening. Let's talk about time. You probably think you're pretty good at estimating it. 10 minutes, half an hour, pff, easy. But in total silence, your internal clock becomes about as useful as a wet sundial. Time stops making sense. Minutes feel like hours, hours feel like days, and not in the this meeting is dragging way in the have I been here for a week or 20 minutes kind of way. It's terrifying. This happens because your brain uses a combination of cues to estimate time, daylight changes, body temperature, and sound. Background noise gives your brain subtle rhythm like a soundtrack to reality. When that soundtrack is gone, your sense of chronology just unravels. In studies, people left in quiet isolation swore they'd been in there for days. Spoiler, it had been like 45 minutes. One guy even refused to believe the clock when shown. Basically, silence breaks your brain's stopwatch, and instead of fixing it, your brain just goes, we live here now. Number 6. The madness of monks and prisoners. Turns out extreme silence isn't just a laboratory experiment. It's been accidentally tested on humans for centuries. Enter monks and solitary confinement. Some monks actively seek out silence for spiritual enlightenment, which sounds peaceful, until you realize many of them report hallucinations, dissociation, and full-on ego death. The goal is to lose the self, which is exactly what science says happens in sensory isolation. So, yeah. Ancient monks were basically running neuroscience experiments with incense and no peer review. On the flip side, we've got solitary confinement. Same silence, different vibe. Prisoners in long-term isolation often experience severe mental deterioration, depression, paranoia, auditory and visual hallucinations, and in some cases, permanent psychological damage. The brain is built to interact with the world. When that's taken away, especially the noise, it doesn't cope well. Whether you're searching for nirvana or just stuck in a cell, too much silence sends your neurons into a sad little tailspin. So next time someone says, I just need some peace and quiet, maybe ask them how much ego fragmentation they're going for. Number 7. Your body gets louder to compensate. Here's a wild one in dead silence. Your body cranks up the volume, not because it wants to, but because your brain starts turning up the gain like boosting a mic in an empty room. This phenomenon is called central auditory gain, and it basically means your brain amplifies internal noise when external input is lacking. The result, tinnitus. Pulsing, ear ringing, the sound of your own swallowing at concert level decibels. Some people even report rhythmic noises synced with their heartbeat, which is just horrifying enough to sound like a curse. And it's not just your ears, your skin gets hypersensitive too. Some people report feeling every fiber of their clothing, every twitch, every breath. You don't just hear your body, you feel it too much. It's like your senses are bored and now they're throwing a house party with no supervision, just nerves, tissues, and some uninvited panic. So yeah, the less you hear, the more you feel, and that's not always a good thing. Number 8. Your thoughts get really loud. Silence doesn't just turn up the volume on your body, it also cranks your thoughts up to 11. Without distractions, your inner monologue becomes the main event. And spoiler alert, that voice in your head, it never shuts up. Ever. At first, it's kind of nice. Peaceful even. But then the overthinking kicks in. You start replaying awkward conversations from 2009, questioning every life decision. Wondering if you left the stove on, even though you're in a sealed room and there's no stove. Your brain spirals. Fast. This is actually rooted in psychology. When external stimulation disappears, your default mode network, the brain's daydreaming circuit, fires up. It starts digging through memories, emotions, fears, embarrassing middle school moments, everything. No filters, just raw unedited mental footage. Now imagine that happening with no music, no background noise, and no way to distract yourself. It's like locking yourself in a room with a version of you that just wants to trauma dump and rewatch your worst moments on repeat. Basically, your brain becomes that one friend who always overshares at parties, but the party is your skull and you're the only guest. Number 9. Nightmares but you're awake. Once you're deep enough into silence-induced mental chaos, your brain starts blurring the line between dreams and reality. Yes, we're talking about waking hallucinations. This isn't just trippy colors or mild illusions. People have reported full-blown shadow figures, whispering voices, and even feeling like someone is standing right behind them all while fully awake. And this isn't exclusive to horror movie addicts. Perfectly rational people start to break when the silence stretches long enough. Why? Because when your brain is deprived of external sensory input, it begins generating its own. Visual cortex fires up, auditory cortex kicks in. The brain's like, well, we've got no data, better start improvising. It's the same mechanism behind dream imagery, only now your eyes are open and the room is real. That's why total silence often feels haunted even if you know it's just physics and padded foam. Your brain has moved from, this is quiet to time to conjure demons. Fun. Number 10, the ultimate social withdrawal. Here's the kicker, humans are incredibly social creatures. Even if you're introverted, even if people annoy you, even if small talk is your personal hell, we're built for connection through sight, touch, and especially sound. Silence cuts off all of that. It removes the subtle feedback you get from others, a cough, a sigh, footsteps in the hallway. Without these cues, you begin to feel like the last person on earth. Or worse, the last person in your own mind. There's a reason total silence is used as psychological warfare. It creates isolation so intense the brain doesn't know what to do with itself. Even low-level background noise like distant traffic or a buzzing fridge tells you, hey, the world is still here. When that's gone, your sense of reality gets fuzzy. And guess what? The brain fills the void with paranoia, anxiety, existential dread. Sometimes even a weird feeling that you might not be real. In other words, silence doesn't just isolate you from others, it isolates you from yourself. Number 11, the mind wipe effect. If you've made it this far in a silent environment, congratulations, your brain is now in full-on reboot mode. People who've spent extended time in deep silence often come out mentally foggy. They forget what they were doing, where they are, who they are. This is sometimes called sensory amnesia. Your brain becomes so understimulated that it starts turning off unused processing centers. It's like the brain's going, "Welp, nothing to hear, nothing to do. Let's just power down and see what happens." The result is a weird blend of confusion, disorientation, and sometimes emotional numbness. Kind of like waking up from a nap you definitely weren't supposed to take, but instead of 15 minutes on the couch, it's been 3 hours in a padded echo tomb. Basically, you went in for a little peace and quiet, and you came out with existential jet lag.